Hi, and welcome back to another video. And today I will once again be talking about President Donald Trump's approval rating. Now, it has actually been a while on the channel, and it's also been a while since I've made a video talking about President Trump's job approval, because it's been very steady very recently. However, there are, as of recently, a lot of issues going on with in America that could be more of a problem than it already is for Trump's approval rating. Now, Trump's approval rating, even before Trump took office, even before he was, president, many others, including myself, were expecting Trump to not have a good approval rating for this second term as president. Not when he was like straight coming in, but for all of his second term. Many many others, including myself, were expecting Trump's approval rating to be really bad. However, starting off, that's not what we got, right? We saw Trump's approval rating. Very good. The highest it's ever been. 6+ approval rating. I remember when these polls came out, and I remember seeing these for the first time. These were just like, some of them were released hours after Trump was inaugurated president back in January. And Trump was getting like +10 to +15 approval ratings, which is insane for Donald Trump, who is an incredibly unpopular president during his first term. And as of right now, he, yeah, sure is unpopular, but not as unpopular as he was before. And it is impressive at how much he was able to turn around his really damning view of what the country viewed him when he left office in 2021. 4 years later, the American people, because of the unpopularity of the Biden administration and everything else that was happening, they completely forgot that they viewed Trump in a negative view because Trump wasn't president for those 4 years, and because for a really long time Trump was out of the political spotlight. Who was in the political spotlight? Well, that would have been, President Biden. And you can see here, President Biden left office with a very unpopular approval rating. The American people were clearly sick and tired of President Biden, and that's what we saw in the results of the 2024 presidential election. However, Trump is now, president. We're not going to be getting any more approval rating polls for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, unless Kamala Harris decides to run. But as you can see here, President Biden, here we go. President Biden left office with a 57.1% of the country disapproving of him, and only 39% approving of Joe Biden. When he left office and when his administration ended and the Trump administration came in. Now that looks really bad. And as of right now, President Trump, 49.9% of the country disapprove of President Trump, and only 47.5% of the country approve of him. So you do have really, it is really close. It is a real 50-50 as of right now, and the same can't be said for when Biden left office, where a clear majority said, we do not approve of what President Biden is doing right now, and we do not approve of his administration and how things are going in the, in the direction of the country. And as of right now, a little bit is being said that for President Trump, where voters are starting, or Americans are, first starting to say, we're not liking where things are going. And President Trump, as of right now, has a -2 disapproval rating. Where 49 or almost 50% of the country is saying, we don't like where things are heading. Where 47% of this country is saying, we actually do like where things are headed. And, a lot of Trump voters are saying, this is the stuff I voted for. However, a lot of what is happening right now, a lot of the issues that the Trump administration is facing right now, with the Signalgate crisis, with the stock market, having a horrible 3-day record, the several markets being down, where several, you have all these stockholders very uncomfortable with what the Trump administration and what their agenda is pushing, and it being shown in the Dow Jones, in the Nasdaq, and all of the stocks. And that is just one of the many issues the Trump administration is facing, as of what the Biden administration is facing. Now, many people who follow this stuff, like myself, know that what collapsed the Biden approval rating was Afghanistan, right? President Biden was very popular in the beginning of his first term. We went plus 15, plus 13, we had plus double digits. His approval was all the way up at 55%. And even when he first entered office, yeah, 55% was his highest. 36 disapproval, or 35% disapproval was probably the lowest, that we ever saw for his disapproval, and 55% would be the highest Biden ever saw for his approval. And that was kind of steady for a while. For a long period of months, that was really steady until we got into the summer. And and we saw a little bit decline for approval. And it seemed to start to be steady and even out until the Afghanistan thing happened in late July, early August, or the middle of August. And we saw Biden's approval rating completely collapse and become become unpopular in his approval rating for the very first time ever. And it never recovered. So many other things followed the Afghanistan withdrawal crisis that happened, which only made things more difficult for the Biden administration. And you saw their approval rating never recover. It kind of hovered around like the early 40s or the late the high 30s and the low 40s for most of the rest of his term. As you can see here, it was kind of flirting with just 40 to 39%, for most of leading up to the election. And then when President Biden dropped out of the race, you kind of saw his approval rating bounce back up. But still, he's still disapproved with double digits here. And 42% was really the highest Biden's approval rating was in for like months, right? All the way up to like maybe over a year ago when it got up to 42%. And of course, Biden's approval rating after that even declined even more. And of course, he left office with just a approval rating under 40%, a 39% approval rating, and a very, very unpopular presidency. And this is something that the Trump administration definitely wants to avoid. Definitely wants to avoid. Where Biden left office incredibly unpopular, and the American people disapproving of the job he did, what his administration was doing, how they handled these crises, and that they want a new change, which is why Donald Trump was elected president. And now we are starting to see something that's happening to Donald Trump. What happened to Joe Biden? There were a lot of crises that happened under the Biden administration, where the Biden administration either handled it very poorly or they had horrible messaging behind it. And I think the same thing is happening to President Trump, where when the Signal Gate leak happened, the messaging from the White House was that the journalist is paid for by the Democrats, and that he is trying to build this campaign to harm the Trump administration or to bring down Donald Trump. And most people from the White House or the Trump administration was blaming the media. This is something similar we saw in the first Trump administration, but it wasn't as aggressive as of now. And that is an example of poor messaging. The White House clearly struggling to really, have an actual answer on why something like that happened. And I think that we're probably going to be seeing more of that, and we already are. There is going to be a White House press briefing today with Caroline Leavitt, and she is going to have to respond to the markets crashing. And I'm sure her responses are going to be aggressive, and it's probably not going to be good for the Trump administration. Like I said, Trump came into office again, very popular approval rating. This is something we did not see in his first term. And he, in his first term, never reached 50%. Not once. Sure, his disapproval was higher than Joe Biden. Donald Trump wasn't as popular as Biden was. So far, Trump has not been able to reach a double-digit approval rating like Biden did. However, a 6+ approval rating is very good for Donald Trump, which unfortunately for Trump and the White House eventually collapsed very quickly as the Trump administration began to push his agenda more and more. And his approval rating for a while now was kind of steady, where we had like a +3, +2, until we got more into more into the administration, and more things started happening. And eventually, the Trump administration became unpopular during the or right after the State of the Union address. Just the night, I think, actually, the State of the Union address, where Trump's approval rating completely collapsed, where the American people were not like what they were seeing. Now, sure, as of right now, Donald Trump doesn't have a wide disapproval rating. As of right now, the American people only disapprove him by 2%. He has a -2 approval rating and a +2 disapproval rating. And only about half of the country, as of right now, says that they don't like the way that the Trump administration is handling things. They don't like where the direction of the country is going, and that they want to see different things happening, which is kind of the messaging we saw with the Biden administration and the early months of the Biden administration, where the Biden administration started off incredibly popular, double digits approval rating, which eventually collapsed with one crisis. We, so far, in this new Trump administration, have seen two crises that the White House has really failed to have good messaging behind, where it was signal gain and now it's the market's crashing. So whatever else happens, whatever else chaos unfolds, and if the White House has poor messaging behind that as well, we could probably see Trump's approval rating decline even more. And we also have, I don't know if it's here. We also have, where is it? Okay, so it's not, I don't think it's here. Oh, here we go. Direction of the country. That's what I wanted. So we also have the direction of the country, which for most of it is actually very common to see the direction of the country statistics on Real Clear Politics to be in the negatives. It is always in the negatives. There are very few times where it has ever been in the positives. I don't think it's ever been in the positives. I don't know why it's not going here. Where it's ever been in the positives, usually it's in the negatives. And we saw that with the Biden, the Biden administration. And usually when a president gets sworn into office, the direction of the country polling, let me do a refresh. The direction of the country polling usually spikes up a little bit. Usually spikes up to where, where they see that, okay, there it is, where they see that change coming in the presidential office, and they, the direction of the country, the approval or the right direction kind of goes up. And we saw that with Biden's inauguration. We saw that with Trump's inauguration as of very recently. I'll give you guys some examples. So this is at max. So there has probably been only one time, not even, the lowest it's ever been is -2. That's the lowest it's ever been. And so every time we've had a president be sworn in office, right? This is where Obama came in. I'm trying to get into where Trump first came in. So as we got into Trump came in, the right direction spiked all the way up to 39%. And the wrong track went down to 52%. Obviously declined when we got into COVID. And when Biden was inaugurated, the right direction spiked all the way up to 43%. Something we have not seen, since Trump was inaugurated. Which obviously declined when the American people were not satisfied with how things were going and with, how the Biden administration was handling stuff. And so when Trump came into office, we saw the right direction go from a 28% to a 43%, and the wrong track, obviously going from a 64 all the way down to almost below 50, which is truly incredible. But as of right now, it seems to be going back up, and the right direction seems to be going back down. And I think that we're probably going to be seeing more of what we saw during the Biden administration, where towards the beginning, the American people were very excited to see what the Biden administration was going to be doing. And in the first couple of months, they were very supportive, and they approved of what the Biden administration was doing. But it didn't take long for one crisis the American people to completely disapprove of what the Biden administration was doing. And I think we're going to be seeing that with the Trump administration. But we're still very early. It is only April. It took all the way until August for the approval of the Biden administration to completely collapse for the American people. And we could see that with the Trump administration. But like I said, it's still very, very, very early. And we still have a long way to go. We still have a long, more 3 years. We're still only April of 2024. It's still April 2024. And yes, it is correct that the President Trump's approval rating, as of now, has already collapsed. Is already in the negatives. Is already in the negatives. And that will probably, continue to happen, where his, approval rating will probably continue to sink as the White House fails to actually have good responses to messaging, as that also happened under the Biden administration. And like I showed you before, Biden's approval rating only continued to get worse. So I think this will happen as well with Donald Trump. I think it's only a matter of time until we really have the wrong track, going back up again, and the right direction going back down. As even though these are good numbers for the White House, this doesn't last. As we saw for Biden, where it was kind of spiking for a little bit, and it reached a peak of 42% in May of 2021. Well, when did it go down? During the Afghanistan withdrawal. We saw it go back down with the Afghanistan withdrawal, and it reached another all-time low in August of 2022. Where the right direction was at 19% and the wrong track was over 70%. This is obviously something, it wasn't that low until we got, I believe, to the COVID crisis. Yep, the COVID crisis of July of 2020, where the right direction was at 23% and the wrong track was at 69%. Where the American people did not like what Trump was doing in his first term, and that's why they voted Biden in, and then they didn't like what the Biden administration was doing, so they voted Trump in again, and so on and so on. And we're probably going to see this matter a lot during not just the 2025 governor races, but the 2026 midterms, and eventually the 2028 presidential race. But still, those are a long way away. And we still have a long way to go. And until we get there, we still have a lot more numbers to look at, a lot more graphs to look at. But until then, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.